Thank you for your interesting presentation. Briefly, what people know who have never read the Quran, what they know about Quran is the stories about war and fighting, and the story about women. Could you comment these 2 days, please? Briefly, please.
War and fighting. Yes, there's a verse in the Quran, fight them in line, wait and ambush, whatever. In the 9th Surah, Surah Al-Tawbah, verse 5, has a very warring tone. It talks about making war on certain people. It's often quoted by people who have a grudge against Islam and say, see, Islam promotes violence. But if you look just before that, it's very clear. The verses just before that and after that speak about people who have treaty obligations with the Muslims, peace treaty obligations, and then they break them and they violate those treaties and commit aggression against the Muslims. They were fighting for their self-survival at that time, in self-defense. And so it talks about people who break their treaties, and this is how you deal with them. And it has a very bellicose tone. And when that verse was revealed, the tribes that were the enemies of the Muslims at that time, that were trying to exterminate this new community, when they heard that very bellicose tone, they had their spies inside Medina, and they immediately went and told, the enemy tribes, the disbelievers, this is their relation came, they're coming at you. Listen what it said. The end result was it led to the peaceful conquest of Mecca, and very little bloodshed, virtually none. So actually, the end result was peaceful. But the long and the short was that it justified violence only against aggression. And in that particular context, because you could often hear that verse recited, the 5th verse of Surah Al-Tawbah, just read the verses before and after. It talks about, the context is quite clear. It's about those who break their treaties. And it says about those who don't break their treaties, keep your peaceful relations with them and honor those treaties. And that's similar. Just to give you an example, in the Quran, some have tried to make out the case that the Quran endorses violence and aggression. Some Muslims have. And when they do that, I remember that in their argument they had to write that verse that I just mentioned canceled 254 verses of the Quran enjoining peace and only fighting in self-defense, with the non-Muslims. 254 verses that had to cancel. That's a good indication of what the Quran really says. If you had to make that sort of massive cancellation, you'd be sure that it must be violating what the Quran says in general. The Quran says don't commit aggression. Even says, if they seek peace, you seek peace, and don't worry about God. God will defend you. Because a lot of times we think, oh, now that they seek peace, jump on them, now kill them, wipe them out. This is our chance. The Quran says they seek peace, you seek peace. God is the best of defenders. But the long and the short of it is, I'm just trying to run through this quick. The Quran really, as far as I understand it, and I think almost any objective reader would, if you look at all the verses, and that's the way you should approach the Quran. When you're dealing with any subject, get out all the verses that deal with it. Massive, amount of verses joining only fighting in self-defense or against veritable oppression. Let's see. What was the other one about women?